Wisdom Can Still Come in Winter by Alina Loneck of Boambi East 2452. Narrated by Janine Penfold. When Irene had pressed proceed to checkout, she never envisioned it would come to this. The Amazon ad had stated, wine bottle bags, 12 pieces, brown cardboard, eco-friendly, perfect for birthdays, anniversaries and dinner parties. It had made no mention of burials, and she had a corpse to dispose of. Who'd have thought that a space with a height of 35 centimetres would be a perfect fit? Luna was blameless. The cause of death, misadventure, not murder. The culprit was the patio window that Irene cleared with her Karcher that June morning on the shortest day of the year. And here, in the hammock of her hands, was the evidence. A dead satin bowerbird with stunning violet blue eyes against blue-black plumage. Dried tears, trowel and bagged bird in hand, Irene opened the western gate onto the narrow concrete walkway that led to the apartment block's community garden of ornamentals and small-scale agriculture. Halfway, she halted briefly and raised an acknowledging hand as 5 pairs of eyes, 1 pair male, peered out at her from the only ground floor room on that side of the building. A strata committee meeting. Why, of all days, today? And she heel and toed it to the garden. After she laid the bird in the rich, mulched, moist earth under the lily-pilly hedge, she thought about Kathleen, the banshee of the block. She could hear her now. I trust you buried that bird with due diligence, at least 60 centimetres deep, near the ornamentals and not near the crops. You really should have binned it. It's only a bird, for goodness sake. But worse, far worse than this, would be the overall consensus that would bushfire through the entire block. Irene has a drinking problem. When Irene got up from her knees and out of her thoughts, she rinsed the trowel, folded the wine bottle bag, put it under her arm, and headed back the way she came. The committee was now socialising in the outdoor nook alongside the path. How much bad luck could someone have on one day? In a mild, trembling panic, without knowing why, Irene broke a lifetime reflexive habit. Without slowing her pace, she smiled and walked by. No explanation. She was making a cup of lemongrass and ginger tea when there was a knock at the door. Kathleen. Knew it! Irene steeled herself for the tirade and opened the door. Is everything all right? You're normally one to stop for a quick chat. Irene wanted to be flippant and say, perfectly all right. I weed better after a bottle of Eve's Paddock Eden Valley Riesling. Instead, she shared her story. Oh, I wish you'd let me know. I'd have come along with you and scattered my cavoodle's ashes. The words stunned Irene. She'd misjudged Kathleen's reaction. Just like she formed judgments about people with tattoos and piercings. And she'd been proved wrong on that one twice. Even if she had to do a bit of her own aversion therapy with a rubber band on her right wrist, from now on, she would never judge a book by its dust jacket. During the next committee meeting, Irene realised to her dismay that the whole episode with the burial had begun to snowball beyond sanity. Residents were making submissions to the strata committee to have the ashes of their deceased loved ones, animal and human, spread across the community garden, as well as their own when the time came. Jim, a bachelor, summed up his case in 2 sentences. Of course, my 80 kilos will end up at 2.5 kilos. Very manageable, that. Lizzie revealed her grandmother's ashes were in a box in her caged underground parking spot. When my kids were at primary school, I joked about how they could take her to school when family history assignments were due. She'd just love a spot under the gardenias. Many of the others, all christened with over-the-garden fence names like Irene's, put in their 2 cents worth. The entire thing morphed monstrously into out-of-hand requests for end-of-life ceremonies and having the right of scatterment written into the strata bylaws. Yet again, Irene did something she had never done before. She instigated an extraordinary general meeting. Look, folks, these requests are just not feasible. Scattering too many ashes will wreak havoc on the garden. Audrey responded with, I can't see why. It's just like fertiliser. Irene explained. Most plants prefer a slightly acidic soil. It makes nutrient uptake more available. Ashes are quite alkaline. Too many ashes kill. There was a titter and an epidemic of upward eye rolls. She continued. Goodbye the wattle and the grevillea. Our tomatoes and squash will be goners. The only positive is we'll have supersized lettuces. There were nods of agreement to the last remark, as a lettuce in Woolies had risen to a cent short of $12. Well, that's put a damper on things. Disappointed is what I am, said Moira, and the rest nodded in agreement. I do have some exciting news, though. Nowadays, there are companies who turn ashes into objects. Firecrackers, an hourglass timer, a set of coasters, a glass vase. And Jim, you'd be pleased to hear this, even a vinyl 33 RPM record with bespoke music. With the handing out of leaflets with all the info, the matter died a natural death. The original incident and its aftermath had been a blessing for Irene. She could now say with certainty, in her remaining uncertain years, that she had absorbed 3 valuable life lessons. Don't judge, don't explain, lead rather than follow. It was as if she had torn down the wallpaper her parents had laid down with painstaking precision to every wall of every room when Irene was a child. Yes, Irene mused to herself a few nights later, wisdom can still come in winter. And with her banded hand, she poured herself another glass of Riesling and thought about firecrackers. The end.